You, my dear viewer, where are you from? I mean, think about this for a moment. Where are you really from? Where do you feel like you belong to the most? Is it to your country? Is it maybe to the state or province you're from? Maybe you have a more supranational vision of the world and you consider yourself both the member of a nation and the member of a union of nations, such as the European Union or the Commonwealth. On the contrary, maybe you are like the Basques in Spain or the Flemish in Belgium and you consider your province as your primary national identity, so much so that you wish it was its own country. Many of you might prefer instead focusing on the issues of your local community, with the affairs of the country you live in at large being of secondary concern to you. Most people nowadays have what we could call a multi-layered identity, where you feel more or less part of different groups at the same time. And the ancient Greeks were no exception. The ancient Hellenic world organized itself in lots of different ways throughout its history, as tribes, kingdoms, leagues, confederations, even as empires, both native Greek empires or as part of foreign empires. But at the center of all of these ways of organizing themselves, the concept of the city-state, the polis, as being a citizen of that polis, was always a huge part of the Greek identity. Today I want to show you a very charming coin that illustrates this concept of belonging to a city-state, of being a polites, a citizen, by featuring the incarnation of the city as a goddess, and with its inscriptions proudly announcing where the coin came from. Apart from being this stunning piece of art from the 2nd century BC, this is an artifact that teaches us a lot about the concept of identity, about how people identify themselves as being part of a cultural sphere, a national identity, and the rights and obligations that came from belonging to these ancient political entities. But first, let me give a shout out to my dear friend Dean Kinzer from Kinzer Coins for bringing us this wonderful coin and sponsoring yet another episode. Make sure to check out his store at kinzercoins.com, where you can acquire this very coin we're showing today, as well as other ancient coins personally selected by an experienced collector such as Dean. Also, make sure to subscribe to his podcast, The Ancient Coin Hour, where he discusses everything about ancient coins and the coin market in this very easy to follow, hands-on approach to numismatics. I'll leave a link in the video description of this video. Once again, thank you very much, Dean, for supporting classical numismatics. Alright, back to this pretty little thing here. This coin was struck in the city of Smyrna, located on what is modern-day Western Turkey, around the year 150 BC. This was a colony founded by Greeks from the mainland, way back in the 9th century BC. Smyrna and its other neighboring colonies prospered economically. They were some of the most successful Greek colonies ever founded, but all of this prosperity called the attention of its eastern, more powerful neighbors. As a result, despite Smyrna's long history, most of it was spent under the control of foreign powers. From the 7th to the 6th century BC, it was under the control of the Lydians. Then it fell to the Achaemenid Persians from the mid-6th to the late 4th century BC, when it was annexed by Alexander the Great and his huge empire. Smyrna then spent the next 2 centuries switching hands between different Hellenistic kingdoms, until around the time this coin was struck, in the middle of the 2nd century BC, when the Roman Republic started taking over the Greek world. The citizens of Smyrna picked their allegiance as well, falling under the Roman sphere of influence, and for a time they became an independent and free city-state at last. Although I use the term free here in quite a liberal way, it was mostly a protectorate of Rome, and it wouldn't take long until it was annexed, along with the rest of the region as one of the Republic's newest provinces. In this brief window of independence, the people from Smyrna really put on public display their civic pride, issuing these really pretty silver tetradrachma that featured the goddess Tyche, Tyche was the goddess of fortune, of fate, and she was worshipped as the guardian goddess of cities, especially during the highly politically unstable 2nd century BC, when the fortune of a city could take a turn to the worse rather rapidly. She wears on her head a crown made out of the towers and walls that protected the city, in a way to illustrate that Tyche was the city. This obverse illustrates some of the broader aspects of ancient Greek identity. Despite being mostly concerned with the affairs of one's city, a Greek knew he was part of a larger cultural sphere. He knew he shared his religion, his founding myths, his language with other Hellenes from other faraway places. It's not like they were a unified people, absolutely not. The Greeks were going to war with each other all the time. So for example in this coin, Tyche was a recognizable symbol. You could go from Smyrna to as far away as, let's say, Syracuse in the Sicilian coast, show this coin to a merchant there, and as long as he was a Greek, he would probably say, yeah, that's Tyche, the city goddess. Having such cultural icons on their coins made them more effective tools of trade, more likely to be accepted by foreign merchants. As for the reverse, we have a wreath made out of oak leaves, serving as an outside border for the legends, which are pretty straightforward. It reads Smyrnaion, from the people of Smyrna. Finally, at the bottom of this inscription, we have a monogram of the paymaster, the magistrate responsible for the mint. While the obverse of this coin looked more towards the broader Greek world, this reverse turns inwards to the concept of being a citizen of Smyrna. Citizenship was hereditary, and it came with a series of rights no foreigner could access. A citizen was the only one allowed to own land, vote in local assemblies, and hold any kinds of public positions, such as, for example, being the magistrate responsible for the minting of coins. They had full legal rights and access to participate in a city's main festivals and religious rites. However, when war came, they were also expected to be the first ones to present themselves to fight. Each citizen had to arm himself in accordance to their social status, with poor individuals required to have the basic equipment to serve as skirmishers or light infantry, while the richer citizens were required to own the full equipment of a heavy infantryman, the hoplite, while also being required to be physically fit to fight. Financial contributions to the war effort were also expected and depended on your social status. While foreigners could live in a city they were not citizens of, their status as non-citizen residents had serious drawbacks. Residence in a foreign city meant that most likely you had to pay special taxes. If you entered in a legal dispute, you had to be represented by a citizen, otherwise your word as a foreigner wouldn't be valid in court. The fact you couldn't own any land meant you had to rent a place to live. Basically, all aspects of public life and any opportunities of exploiting economic activities were conditioned to the patronage of a citizen. That's why a Greek gave so much importance to its native polis. Having your city be destroyed in war or being banished meant there was absolutely nowhere else you could enjoy such privileges. Wherever you went, you would always be a foreigner, incapable of owning land, incapable of making a living for yourself without the oversight of a full citizen. You wouldn't have appropriate legal protection. This is one of the aspects about the ancient world many of us have a hard time visualizing today. It wasn't just a world of material scarcity. It was a world where what we would call civilized life, with things such as property rights or legal rights, were not only reserved for a few, but it was also incredibly precarious. All you needed, for example, was one influential enemy of yours in a position of power, and you could potentially be banished and lose your rights as a citizen in the only tiny little corner of the entire world where you had it. And that's why ancient coins are so incredible, and we should feel so privileged to be able to collect them. They are a direct link between us and this very distant, very different, very brutal past. What about you? Have you got a coin from an independent Greek city-state? Let us know in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave a like and consider subscribing if you did. Once again, thank you very much to Kinzer Coins for sponsoring the channel. Make sure to check them out. Happy collecting, and I'll see you soon.